Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Cheva Narottam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jyamudiyayat. Nastvyasya Bhatyasu Nityam Bharata Sevya Bhagavati Uttamasve Bhakti Bhagavati Naistiki. We will be reading from the first canto, chapter 8, which we will read from the part of the chapter, the prayers of Queen Kunti, text 26 and 27. So I will be discussing two verses because we are on the same theme. The theme is that one must be materially exhausted to chant with feeling, to pray to Krishna with feeling. So this is a famous verse quoted by Srila Prabhupada many times. Janmashvaya shuta shibir vedamana malampumam naivaratya vidatum vai tvamakinshan agocham. Synonyms, word for word translation. Janma, birth. Aishvarya, opulence. Shruta, education. Shribihi, by possession of beauty. Edamana, progressively increasing. Mada, intoxication. Puman, the human being. Na, never. Eva, ever. Arati, deserves. Abidatum, to address in feeling. Vai, certainly. Tvam, you. Akinshana, gocharam, one who is approached easily by the materially exhausted man. Translation and purport by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. My Lord, your Lordship can easily be approached, but only by those who are materially exhausted. One who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself with respectful parentage, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty, cannot approach you with sincere feeling. Purport. Being materially advanced means taking birth in an aristocratic family and possessing great wealth, an education, and attractive personal beauty. All materialistic men are mad after possessing all these material opulences, and this is known as the advancement of material civilization. But the result is that by possessing all these material assets, one becomes artificially puffed up, intoxicated by such temporary possessions. Consequently, such materially puffed up persons are incapable of uttering the holy name of the Lord, addressing him feelingly, O Govinda, O Krishna. It is said in the Shastras that by once uttering the holy name of the Lord, the sinner gets rid of a quantity of sins that he is unable to commit. Such is the power of the uttering of the holy name. There is not the least exaggeration in this statement. Actually, the Lord's holy name has such powerful potency, but there is a quality to such utterances also. It depends on the quality of feeling. A helpless man can feelingly utter the holy name of the Lord, whereas a man who utters the same holy name in great material satisfaction cannot be so sincere. A materially puffed up person may utter the holy name of the Lord occasionally, but is incapable of uttering the name in quality. Therefore, the four principles of material advancement, namely high parentage, good wealth, high education, and attractive beauty, are, so to speak, disqualifications for progress on the path of spiritual advancement. The material covering of the pure spirit is an external feature, as much as fever is an external feature of an unhealthy body. The general process is to decrease the degree of the fever and not to aggravate it by maltreatment. Sometimes it is seen that spiritually advanced persons become materially impoverished. This is no discouragement. On the other hand, such impoverishment is a good sign, as much as the falling of temperature is a good sign. The principle of life should be to decrease the degree of material intoxication, which leads one to be more and more illusioned about the aim of life. Grossly illusioned persons are quite unfit for the entrance into the kingdom of God. I read also the next verse. Nama kinchana vittaya nivritta guna vittaye atmaramaya santaya kaivalya payate namaha. My blessings are unto you. You are the property of the materially impoverished. You have nothing to do with the actions and reactions of the material modes of nature. You are self-satisfied. Therefore, you are the most gentle and are the master of the monist. Purport. A living being is finished as soon as there is nothing to possess. Therefore, a living being cannot be in the real sense of the term renouncer. A living being renounces something for gaining something more valuable. A student sacrifices his childish proclivities to gain better education. A servant gives up his job for a better job. Similarly, a devotee renounces the material world not for nothing, but for something tangible in spiritual value. Srila Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and Sri Raghunath Goswami and others gave up their worldly pomp and prosperity for the sake of the service of the Lord. They were big men in the worldly sense. The Goswamis were ministers in the government service of Bengal, and Srila Raghunath Goswami was the son of a big Saminder of his time. But they left everything to gain something superior to what they previously possessed. The devotees are generally without material prosperity, but they have a very secret treasure house in the lotus feet of the Lord. There's a nice story about Srila Sanatana Goswami. He had a touchstone, and this stone was left in a pile of refuse. A needy man took it, but later on wondered why the valuable stone was kept in such a neglected place. He therefore asked Sanatana Goswami for the most valuable thing, and then he was given the holy name of the Lord. Akinchana means one who has nothing to give materially. A factual devotee or Mahatma does not give anything material to anyone because he has already left all material assets. He can, however, deliver the supreme asset, namely the personality of Godhead, because he is the only property of a factual devotee. The touchstone of Sanatana Goswami, which was thrown in the rubbish, was not a property of the Goswami. Otherwise, it would have not have been kept in such a place. This specific example is given for the neophyte devotees just to convince them that material hankerings and spiritual advancement go ill together. Unless one is able to see everything spiritually in relationship with the Supreme Lord, one must always distinguish between spirit and matter. A spiritual master like Srila Sanatana Goswami, although personally able to see everything as spiritual, set his example for us only because we have no spiritual vision. Advancement of material vision or material civilization is a great stumbling block for spiritual advancement. Such material advancement entangles the living entity in the bondage of a material body, followed by all sorts of material miseries. Such material advancement is called anartha, or things not wanted. Actually, this is so. In the present context, our material advancement, one uses lipstick at the cost of 50 cents. And there are so many unwanted things which are all products of the material conception of life. By diverting attention to so many unwanted things, human energy is spoiled without achievement of spiritual realization, the prime necessity of human life. The attempt to reach the moon is another example of spoiling energy, because if the moon is reached, the problems of life will not be solved. The devotees of the Lord are called akinshnas because they have practically no material assets. Such material assets are all products of the three modes of material nature. They foil spiritual energy, and thus, the less we possess such products of material nature, the more we have a good chance for spiritual progress. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has no direct connection with material activities. All these acts and deeds which are exhibited in this material world and the spiritual are spiritual, and without affection for the modes of material nature. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that all these acts, even his appearance and disappearance, in and out of the material world are transcendental. One who knows this perfectly shall not take his birth in this material world, but will go back to Godhead. The material disease is due to hankering and lording it over material nature. This hankering is due to an interaction of the three modes of nature, and neither the Lord nor the devotees have attachment for such false enjoyment. Therefore, the Lord and the devotees are called Nivritta Gunavritti. The perfect Nivritti Gunavritti is the Supreme Lord because he never becomes attracted by the modes of material nature, whereas the living beings have such a tendency. Some of them are entrapped by the illusory attraction of material nature. Because the Lord is the property of the devotees, and the devotees are the property of the Lord reciprocally. The devotees are certainly transcendental to the modes of material nature. That is another conclusion. Such unalloyed devotees are distinct from the mixed devotees who approach the Lord for mitigation of miseries and poverty, or because of inquisitiveness and speculation. The unalloyed devotees of the Lord are transcendently attached to one another. For others, the Lord has nothing to reciprocate, and therefore is called Atmaram, self-satisfied. Self-satisfied as he is the master of all monists who seek to merge into the existence of the Lord. Such monists merge with the personal effulgence of the Lord, called the Brahmajyoti, but the devotees enter the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, which are never misunderstood as material. Section militamena tasmai Shri Gurave Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Staptam Yena Bhutale Svamrupagadamyam Dadati Svapadam Titam Vandeham Shiyo Shiyuda Padakamalam Shigum Vaishnavam Sham Shirupam Charidatam Sagana Raganatam Tam Tam Sajivan Sadvaitam Savadutam Parjana Saitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagalita Shivishakam Vitam Shah Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandha Jyatpate Gopesha Gopka Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kansana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sitadevi Pranamama Hari Praye Pancha Kalpta Vishake Pasan Vavishapadnan Pavanabhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jai Advaita Gadadhar Shivasad Gaura Bhaktavini Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vistaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nirvishesha Srinyavadi Paskatai Desatani Srila Prabhupada. So we have here Queen Kunti's Krishna conscious perspective. And she cuts through the illusion of material existence. Usually people they are proud of their background and their family. That they are proud of their beauty. They want beauty. The cosmetic industry is an enormous industry that trying to remove the so-called ugliness that so the Srila Prabhupada of course Queen Kunti compares it to intoxications that for intoxications Janma, a good birth, taking birth in a certain country, everyone thinks my country is the best country. That proud of their country. That everyone wants opulence. That so many possessions or education. That in some countries you can buy titles, academic degrees. It's yeah. And then beauty, which is so temporary. So people are attracted to these things, and this attraction is compared here to fever. It's all temporary for the body. But that's, yeah. This is part of the people, but people in general think this is nice. But, so Srila Prabhupada tells the story of a rich lady in Calcutta. She was very proud of her wealth and respectability, and she had a cleaning maid. That the rich lady looked down on the maid, that the poor maid, and she mocked her, thinking herself superior. So once the rich lady and the maid both they had fever, and the doctor came. And the doctor measured their fever, and the rich lady had a fever of 38, and the poor lady had 39 degrees. And she chastised the doctor that you check again, I should have a higher fever. So people think that having this feverish condition is better. That's material existence. But there are many problems with that. If you have these things, then they are different manifestations of the same fever. It's an obstacle in approaching the Lord. So yes, we think we will do everything on the strength of these intoxications, and we take refuge in them. That's the problem. So once in the Mahabharata, you can read how Dushashan was going to undress Draupadi publicly before all the course. At first she was resisting, but then she saw the powerful warriors. She was holding one hand under sari, and with one hand she was calling out for help, Govinda. But then when she saw this very powerful warriors do so, she was thinking, what can I do? And she raised her two hands and she said, and she called out, Govinda, Govinda. And at that time, Lord Krishna started to supply unlimited sari. Yeah. So if we take shelter of our own temporary opulence and strength, which we receive in terms of our karma, we cannot take shelter of Krishna. We have to let that go. These attachments. Because these material opulences, they are all fallible soldiers. They cannot protect us against old age, disease, death. So we cannot pull out our credit card when we become before the Yamadutas. No, it's not possible. So in the previous verses, Queen Kunti has explained how she came in a helpless condition, all the calamities that she went through, the difficulties. Because for a devotee, if a devotee goes to difficulties, is remember, helps the devotee to remember the Supreme Lord. She was remember all these difficulties and she was listing some of them, and Bhima being poisoned by cake, and nearly killed in the fire posed by a house of shellac, that fighting with man-eaters, them being exiled for so many years in the forest. That, and then the Battle of Kurukshetra. But all these difficulties, Queen Kunti said, let they come again, because then I can remember Krishna. Then I remember you. And when I remember you, Krishna is now birth, death, old age, and disease. So what is wrong with a good birth, opulence, and education and beauty? This is what people are longing for in this world. And people become intoxicated by that because they forget the purpose of life. But the problem is that when we have these things, we tend to depend on these things, that rather than depending on Krishna. And when they are attached to it, they cannot approach Krishna with devotion. And Krishna only reciprocates with the Lord's devotion. So we have to become like, we have to become like children depending on Krishna. That does not mean we have to become infantile, but in terms of dependence on Krishna. So if in the heart we have this material attachment to these intoxications, this fear for intoxications, a good birth, opulence, wealth, education, and beauty, that then we cannot call out to Krishna with our own heart, because there's something else in our heart. Because Krishna is a property of the material exhausted, Krishna says. That, so yes, when we chant the holy name, we have these 10 offenses, but besides this 10 offenses at the end, there is 11th offense. And that's in Sanskrit is called pramada, inattentiveness. That inattentiveness, that's the first step in becoming Krishna consciousness. You must give your attention to Krishna first. And when you give your attention, then you can give your love. But first give your attention. And when there is no attention in the stand, in the chanting, we cannot give our love. And this inattention is called pramada in Sanskrit. And one of the important causes of inattention is diversion of our attention to other things. And that is what happens. It diverts us to this, all the problems with these 4 things, or yeah, it diverts us to our sense of exploitation, wanting to enjoy this material world, of removing the obstacles for that, dealing with so many problems, which becomes our priority. I've something, my life has changed. I have to take care of all these problems now, and not of my Krishna consciousness. No. That the cause of this diversion lies in these intoxications. There's a story of Gaurkishore Das Babaji. Gaurkishore Das Babaji was the spiritual master of Srila Bhaktivinoda Saraswati Maharaj. And he was chanting near to the Yamuna or the Ganges, near to the Ganges, that in the jungle. And one of his disciples from Calcutta came, a very, very rich man. And he came to Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj and said, Maharaj, why are you here in this uncomfortable jungle? Come to my house. I've a whole house for you. That he was living in a palace. That we will take care of you. And the reply of Gaurkishore Das Babaji said, what you want is you want to have someone more to control, to bring under your control. And the disciple said, no, I'm your servant. I will do everything you want. Oh, Gaurkishore Das Babaji said, you will do everything I want? And he said to his disciples, sit down and chant and stay here and don't go away any. But that he could not do. So it is our dependence on Krishna and our attachment to Krishna which counts. That whether rich or poor, Krishna becomes purchased by those who call out to him with love and have no other attachment. So this is a very, very high position. That because if we call out to Krishna, if we chant, Krishna immediately knows our motivation. What's in our heart, he knows. That it's like the shopkeepers in Loi Bazaar in Vrindavan. You go shopping there, they call out, they they call out, Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Haribo. What does it mean? What's their motivation? Their motivation is give me your money. So one on the spiritual path should try to minimize one's material attachment. That is what people just don't want to hear. In the world of economic development, in this world, economic development is the standard. How to exploit material nature with the minimum effort, getting the greatest results. Economic laws. Well, this is trying to cure a sick person by increasing their fever. It's called illusion. Yeah. So we should let come what comes without extraordinary endeavor. So that we should understand the purpose of our life. Yeah. So we should become the property of Krishna, as in the last verse that we read is explained. We should become the property of Krishna, of one who is unattached to this material world, and one who loves you. Of course, Krishna is satisfied within himself because there is nothing beyond himself. He is the supreme Atmaram. So two-thirds of the purport of this last verse that we heard deals with the first line, which is the giving up of material desires. So if one possesses that, if one possesses and desire nothing in this world, then one can depend on Krishna. So devotees should become increasingly more and more detached. So a devotee, there are so many examples, they are renouncing everything for the sake of the Lord. We have heard Rupa and Sanatana Goswamis. They were ministers in the role of Hussain Shah, that the Muslim ruler at that time. They were very rich, they were very learned, but they gave up everything to enter the service of Lord Chaitanya. And like Raghunadas Goswami became so very honored after hearing from Haridas Thakur, who came to Saptagam near to Panihati, which is the home of Raghunadas, and so he went to see Lord Chaitanya at the house of Advaitacharya in Santipur, and he became so attracted to Krishna. Also, Goswami has this verse later, that verse, famous verse he wrote, he said, don't go to see that, don't go to see that boy at Keshigat who plays on his flute. Like, if you are still attached to your family, your country, your material possessions and so on. So he said, don't go to see him, because once you see him, you become attracted to his beauty, your heart becomes purified, and you lose your interest in material things. So like the residents of Vrindavan, they all love Krishna, and they have no interest in other things. Like the gopis, they were always thinking in love of Krishna in separation. That they were married with a so-called husband, and their mother-in-laws complained that they said these gopis, they have really no interest in their husbands. So once these mother-in-laws went to Mother Mangal, the Brahmin son, and they said to Mother Mangal, you are very learned. We have a problem. Can you help us? You know Shastra, you are very learned. And Madhavendra said yes, that you say. And they explained how our daughters-in-law, they have really no interest in their husband. How can we revive their interest? Well, Madhamangal said, I will help you. I will perform a sacrifice for you. But what you do, he said, you will have to perform a sacrifice, he said. Or more explicit, your daughters-in-law have to perform a sacrifice for the sun god. But they have to do that in the forest. And therefore, you should allow them to go out and collect all the herbs and flowers for that sacrifice and get a qualified Brahmin. So mothers-in-law were very happy to hear that, because they were keeping their daughters inside. They were not allowed to go out because they knew maybe this Krishna is in the forest. But now they agreed. You go out and perform this sacrifice. Okay. That was also the plan of Mother Mangal. He wanted to make to fulfill the desires of these gopis, also to meet Krishna in the forest. So they went out collecting all these things, and then they were going to perform the sacrifice. Also Srimati Radharani was there, and the gopis with flowers and fruits and so many things for the sacrifice, flower garlands. But then they were thinking, we need a qualified Brahmin. And suddenly, a fully dressed Pujari Brahmin came there, arrived. Of course, this Pujari was Krishna, disguised as a Brahmin. And then also, but of course, the gopis were not alone. Kotila and Jatila were there, in-laws of Srimati Radharani and others. And Krishna, of course, all the gopis became attracted to this Pujari who did the sacrifice for the worship of the sun god. So anyway, they did all these things, but they didn't help. They didn't become attracted to their husbands. Their attraction was only for Krishna. This is the resonance of Vrindavan. But like Raghunath Das Goswami, when he met Lord Chaitanya, he became so attracted, and by the so attracted to Krishna Chaitanya, to Krishna, he lost all his other interests. But so his father, she governed down that, and his uncle, that who were very rich landowners. They saw that they had no interest, but they made a plan. Yeah, it's covered down with Majumdar, his uncle, covered down. Raghunath's uncle made a plan. He said, we will find him a very beautiful young wife. That and then he will become attracted, and he will forget about his Lord Chaitanya. So they married him with a very beautiful girl, but it didn't help. He was not attracted to the girl. That it didn't work out. That anyway, in the Purport, Srila Prabhupada mentioned also the story of Sanatana Goswami, and this person there was a devotee of a worshipper of Lord Shiva, a devotee of Lord Shiva, and he was worshipping Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva wanted to give a benediction, but he worshipped him to get the most valuable thing. He wanted to become rich, the most valuable thing. Lord Shiva appeared and said, I give you the benediction, but you should ask it to Sanatana Goswami at Vrindavan. So the devotee of Lord Shiva went to Sanatana Goswami and told Sanatana Goswami, I've been sent by Lord Shiva to get this benediction from you, that the most valuable thing. Sanatana Goswami thought for some time and said, yes, I have a touchstone, it's there with the garbage, you can get it. And with that touchstone, when you touch any metal, it will become gold. So he was directed toward this pile of garbage, and he was searching in a pile of garbage, and then finally he found his touchstone. And he became very happy because whatever he touched was turned in gold. He did that for some time, but then he was thinking, did Sanatana Goswami give me really the most valuable thing? Why did he keep it with the garbage? So he went back and asked Sanatana Goswami, did you give me the most valuable thing you have? And Sanatana Goswami said, no. But then the devotee of Lord Shiva said, please give me that. Give me that most valuable thing. That, Sanatana Goswami said, I want to give it to you, but first you have to take this touchstone and throw it in the Ganga. So the man with a heavy heart went to the Ganga and he threw it in the Ganga. And he came back. And then Sanatana Goswami initiated him in the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. So first we must give up this material attachment. Otherwise we don't have access to the holy name. Otherwise we will not come to Namabas or the clearing stage or Anartha Nivritti. That's all the same. The purification of the heart will not take place. There's also the story of Mihari the hunter, which is in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that where Mihari the hunter Migra Ari. Ari means enemy, the enemy of the animals. He was killing animals with his bow, but he was killing them half, and they were still sparkling, trying to survive horrible scenes. And Narada Muni came to the forest and he saw a rabbit struggling with an arrow in the body, and then a deer, the same thing. And then it went on like that. But finally, he came across Migari, the hunter, who was a very fierce appearance with a lot of hair on his body. And then Narada Muni asked, "Are you killing these animals?" And Migari said, "Yes, that's a family business. My father did it. I learned it from him, and we enjoy very much when we see these animals fighting, sparkling, and moving. That gives us joy to the heart." But then Narada Muni showed him a vision of how his karma in the future would catch up with him, and how he would suffer very much. And Mihari came to his senses and said that, what can I do? And that, well, Narada Muni said that I will tell you what to do, but first you have to break your bow. And Mihari understood, breaking my bow? Oh, that's my livelihood. But with my maintenance. In the Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada writes, everyone thinks that one is maintained by one's work, but that's not true. Krishna maintains us, that's reality. Krishna maintains even the elephant, which can much more, eat much more than we. Why should he not maintain his devotee? But then Narada Muni said, don't worry about your maintenance, Krishna will maintain. And then he broke his bow. And then after that, after giving up this attachment, Narada Muni instructed him to plant a tulsi tree and chant the holy name. Then he gets so much food of visitors who wanted to see the sadhu hunter, the sinful hunter who had become a sadhu. And they visited him and gave him so many food. Anyway, we find also in the Bhagavatam the story of King Rahugana was hearing from Jat Bharat, a self-realized soul, and by hearing from him, that his heart changed. His heart changed. That so by hearing the Bhagavatam daily, we can also get rid of all this attachment, these intoxications. Therefore, we must hear sufficiently every day, have our dose of hearing. So it means we should avoid our being diverted in our attention to so many unwanted things. Not only video games, films, that so many things on the internet. You can waste your time unlimitedly. Because material advancements generally hinders spiritual advancement. That living simple, having a cow and some land, Prabhupada said. That a cow and some land. If you have a cow, then and some land, and no problem of fertilizers. The cow then are the fertilizers, or the bull, then same thing. That And the bull will work on the land, and fertilize the land together with the cow. And by that we get food, grains, because because in Bhagavad Gita he said that that rain depends on sacrifice. And sacrifice, means following prescribed duties. And when there are rains, there will be grains. So grains are important. So the cow and the bull provides us also grains. These are the basic necessities in life. Today they are using tractors. They have to put up a whole industry. They need petrol. They need a polluting industry to produce these tractors. And then they need artificial fertilizers. And they need chemical plants to produce that and so on. And then they are producing. They need tractors and vehicles and storehouses and so on. It becomes a whole complicated thing. And finally, all this economic development leads to dissatisfaction. And then they fight because of oil or other necessities. So yes, that this material advancement hinders our spiritual advancement. Therefore, Krishna gave us this Varnashram system, that simple living, high thinking. So this is Queen Kunti, cutting to the illusions of material existence and all these intoxications. So usually a devotee, when one becomes a devotee, one becomes many times materially impoverished. People see it like that, but the devotee gets spiritually rich. That's the real thing. That gives the real happiness, an eternal life, stop of cycle, birth and death. It's the only solution. But it requires spiritual intelligence to understand that. And the Bhagavatam is giving us that intelligence and that spiritual vision. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Yeah, thank you so much for the wonderful class. Maharaj, actually, you did mention about few things, but still I want to ask this question for general understanding and help to all of us. Many of us are grahasthas. We need to, plan. We need to work. We need to, have different activities which are not Krishna conscious activities. So what should be the guiding principle where we don't overdo it? Because many times what happens in the job, you feel, okay, now I need to get a promotion. I wanted to earn more money, have a better house, better vehicle. And so you do more, you tend to do more. And obviously at the cost of, our spiritual practices. So what should be the guiding principle? We don't do that. We don't fall in that trap.
Yeah, that is part of the surrender to Krishna. Surrender to Krishna means learning to accept what's favorable for Krishna, love and learning to reject what's unfavorable. What's unfavorable, the Rupa Goswami in Nectar of Instruction, which is a summary of the principles of Nectar of Devotion, in 11 verses, he says, Atyara payashasya prajalpa niyamaka jana sanga salolyam sha sadbir bhaktir vinashati. 6 principles that these are 6 principles which hamper our spiritual advancement. And this, because if we don't follow the 6 principles, we will cultivate these intoxications Queen Kunti is speaking about. Atyahara, eating more than necessary. That we have to be very careful with that. Even if we work, if we have to deal with so many things, we should not eat more than necessary, because that will bring us during illusion during our work. Then prayas, and that's an important principle, is over and endeavor for things that are very difficult to obtain. If to get promotion in our job, we have to sacrifice so much time that we don't have time for chanting anymore, or reading or hearing the Bhagavatam. That's not the point to do, better not to do. And that's a choice of us. There is a limit that, and we must act within this limit. Yeah, devotee is priority. The priority is spiritual life. That and sometimes these are difficult choices, but we should carefully consider these things. Not that it takes more and more and more of your time. That Achyaya Payashasya Prajalpam. That's important. If in our work our partners may many times criticize others, and that's poison that enters our heart. And we start also to criticize other devotees. We have to be careful that we do not overtake the habits of our colleagues at work. That's dangerous. That we should give our association to them, but not receive their association, not doing what they are doing in their private lives. That it should remain to the working business. That's Prajalpa. Niyama Aga. So one should not neglect chanting our rounds, one's sadhana, following the principles that because Krishna sees that in our heart when we neglect. That should be our priority. Hearing every day the Bhagavatam and do some service. But that should be there every day. In combination with our job. Our job, we have also to see as a service to Krishna. Yama Aga, not neglecting them, and also not doing them out of duty, but with enthusiasm. That knowing why we are doing all this for the purification of our heart and attaining love for Krishna. Jana Sangram Salogyam Sa. Don't associate with those who are greedy. So we are quite restricted in what we can do in our job if we work together with non-devotees. And it's a challenge. It's a challenge. Sure. But Krishna looks if how you tackle this challenge, how you try. He sees in our heart that, of course, like Guru Maharaj wanted to set up structures of doing business and so on, so that devotees would associate with other devotees even in their business. That, but it's not easy, these things. That because we have to keep out of this strong material influence. That try our best. It's a struggle. Krishna sees the struggle. But don't give up. Always continue in the struggle. This is our own battle of Kurukshetra we have to fight. That help?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you very much. Especially your instruction to continue struggle, because sometimes we feel the other side is better and relaxing than struggle. But thank you for that guidance that we should continue to struggle.
Yeah. Good. Thank you very much. That then I'm looking forward to see you next week online to discuss the next of this very exalted, beautiful prayers of Queen Kunti. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare
Thank you
Krishna.
very much.
Hare
Hare Krishna.